The anime begins with Alma Tendoji, a teenage boy living in the small town of Yokosuka City. One day, as he relaxes in his room, Alma witnesses a burning cruise ship from his window, and sees something terrifying that unleashes the power of the dark stone within him. As Alma starts his day at school, it becomes clear that he is introverted and quiet, still haunted by an incident 3 years ago. He accidentally hurt many people with his power of the dark stone, and as a result, he has become an outcast at school, with few friends and many rumors circulating about him. However, there is one student who doesn't believe these rumors. Her name is Wakana Ito, and she is the only person who greets Alma and tries to befriend him, despite his lack of response. As Alma walked home from school one day, he stumbled upon a group of thugs bullying another student. Despite his initial urge to intervene, he ultimately ignored the situation and walked away. Every afternoon, he would retreat to the river near the school to search for rare stones to add to his collection. The next day, while relaxing on the school roof, Alma is approached by Wakana, who invites him to join the school's geology club. He initially declines, but she persists and suggests they visit a gemstone exhibition at the city museum. Then he declines again, but Wakana leaves an open invitation for him to meet her at the Hinode Park bus stop at 6 p.m. When the day comes to a close and Alma is settling in at home, he is unexpectedly visited by a young girl named Iba Ruri and her assistant Makoto Kagami. Ruri introduces herself as the CEO of the Iba Research Company, and explains that she needs Alma's help with a problem that has arisen. A few days ago, a cruise ship caught fire in the middle of the Miura Sea, caused by a monster from the power of the Dark Stone. As Ruri explains her plan to enlist Alma's help in defeating the monster, he becomes increasingly agitated, denying any knowledge of the power she speaks of. However, Kagami has researched and reveals that he is aware of the Dark Stone power within Alma. As Kagami delves deeper into the topic, mentioning the accident 3 years ago, Alma's anger boils over, and his dark power awakens. Then he quickly pulls Ruri back and protects her as Alma's rage threatens to harm her. After that, he immediately calls for Ruri's personal troops to be ready in case Alma's actions escalate. But Alma manages to regain control of himself, and after punching the ground in frustration, he tells Ruri and Kagami to leave him alone. He does not want to hurt anyone else again. On the way home, Kagami warns Ruri to be cautious around Alma. Fearing that he might kill her, she asks for his help. Despite Kagami's warning, Ruri remains convinced of Alma's goodness and believes that he would never intentionally harm anyone. However, just as they part ways, disaster strikes. The Dark Stone monster that had previously destroyed the cruise ship in the Miura Sea appears in the middle of Yokosuka City, attacking the citizens with a Medusa beam that turns them to stone. As Kagami realized the dire situation, he quickly ordered his troops in the headquarters to mobilize and prepare transportation and engagement suits. Meanwhile, Alma's attention was drawn to a raging fire in the Hinode Park area, where he was supposed to meet Wakana. Concerned for her safety, Alma jumped on his motorbike and raced towards the park to save her. Simultaneously, Kagami and Ruri received intel from their informant that the Dark Stone monster was after the Steno Stone, which was currently being kept in the town's museum. Knowing the monster's intentions, they knew they had to act fast and stop the creature before it obtained the stone and became invincible. As Kagami donned his engagement suit, he immediately launched a barrage of laser shots at the monster. However, the creature was not so easily defeated and charged at him, pushing him back and throwing him against a nearby cliff. In a last-ditch effort, Kagami pulled out his sword and decapitated the monster. But their fight was far from over as they received word that another monster was heading towards Ruri's location. Meanwhile, Wakana, who had been waiting for Alma for over an hour, decided to leave the bus stop and head to the museum alone. Just as she began to walk away, Alma arrived, and a massive explosion occurred behind her. Seeing her unconscious and critically injured, Alma was consumed by anger, and his power of the Dark Stone was awakened. He immediately took on the form of a red monster and attacked the Medusa monster approaching Ruri's car with the power of a Dark Stone. Seeing the situation, Kagami prepared to shoot Alma and the monster, but Ruri stopped him. She knew that she could help Alma control his powers with her Lightstone. With a shout, she called out to Alma, urging him to stop his attack. On the brink of injuring her, he finally regained control of himself, and the situation was diffused. As Alma returned to his human form, he felt deeply guilty for almost hurting someone else. He expressed that he never wanted such power. Understanding his feelings, Ruri tried to comfort and assured him that she could help him awaken his true sacred 7 powers. With this in mind, she placed the Stone of Light within Alma's body, causing him to transform into a ranger, unlike any form he had taken before. However, their victory was short-lived. The Medusa monster that had been beheaded by Kagami had risen again and gained immense strength from the steno stone it had obtained from the town's museum. The creature had grown larger and stronger, and it was now heading toward Alma and Ruri's location to steal her stone of light. But Alma, now wielding the power of the stone of light given to him by Ruri, could stop the monster's attack. He quickly took the battle away from the crowd, and with a powerful punch to the monster's chest, he destroyed the creature's core. The monster was instantly destroyed, and Alma emerged victorious. The next day, as Alma left for school, he noticed a change in himself. He had become more aware of the people around him and was no longer apathetic. He even stepped in to stop the actions of the bullied students, and warned them not to disturb their peers anymore. He also decided to join Wakana's geology club and try to get along with his classmates. As he was about to hand in his registration form to the geology club room, Alma was surprised to see Ruri and Kagami suddenly appear at the school. She revealed that she had purchased the school's assets and intentionally moved there to communicate more easily with Alma. During recess, Ruri called Alma to her office to discuss something of great importance. Inside, he stumbled upon a family photo of Ruri and a necklace she had worn in the previous battle. He was further surprised to see a talking stone, which Ruri introduced as Onigawara, a stone of darkness. Kagami explained that the dark stone was composed of fragments of meteor stones that had landed in several countries 17 years ago. It possessed the ability to alter DNA mutations in those who came into direct contact with it, and because it was composed of 7 parts, it was known as the Sacred Seven. Kagami suspected that Alma's mother had come into direct contact with the Sacred Seven, causing his DNA to mutate and awaken the power of the Stone of Darkness. The power was immense and almost invincible, but it could be controlled using a special stone called the Stone of Light. Ruri explained that the monsters created from the shards of the Dark Stone would continue to appear and that Alma was her only hope in defeating them. In exchange, she promised to do anything to help him. Hearing her explanation, he asked for time to consider her request and promised to let her know when he was ready. On an Air Force base, military troops loaded chunks of the Dark Stone onto planes for transport to a classified location. However, their movements were closely watched by a nefarious monster, who sent a worm monster to infiltrate the airship. As the worm monster absorbed the power of the Dark Stone, it triggered a catastrophic chain of events. The monster caused the airship to explode, creating a massive red cloud in the sky. The black cloud vortex formed above the sea level and began devouring everything in its path, including a cruise ship sailing nearby. At the same time, Alma and his school's geology club members were out exploring a river to collect rare stones for their research. As he felt a strong gust of wind and saw a storm brewing in the distance, he couldn't shake the feeling that something bad was about to happen. Kagami, who was monitoring the situation from the surveillance base, received a report about the red storm cloud appearing in the middle of the sea. When he and his team arrived at the location to investigate, they quickly realized that the cloud was caused by a dark stone monster. Kagami reported the incident to Ruri and explained that it was likely that the monster had emerged from a block of dark stone that had been stolen from a U.S. military aircraft. He suspected that something had happened to this ship and that a creature had taken control of the dark stone, turning into a monster. The following day, Kagami took Alma to the Iba family residence and introduced him to Ruri's sister, Aoi. There he was shocked to see Aoi trapped inside a stone crystal, yet still able to hear her heartbeat clearly. Kagami explained that Aoi had been frozen in the crystal following an attack that had killed her parents. Ruri believed that by destroying all the dark monsters in the world, she could free Aoi from her prison. She was initially angry at Kagami for showing Alma Aoi's condition without her permission, but her anger subsided when Alma decided to help her defeat the monsters of darkness. Soon after, Alma and the others set off to the location of the red storm cloud in the middle of the sea on Ruri's private plane. As they arrived, they were immediately attacked by the dark monsters, causing the plane's door to be destroyed. At that time, Alma was thrown out of the plane, and Ruri quickly jumped out to save him. She gave him the power of the Stone of Light, enabling him to revive his strength and transform into a Sacred Seven. With Ruri's guidance, Alma flew closer to the monster's core, dodging its tentacles. She informed him that Onigawara had entered the monster's core, and that he only needed to attack its stomach to defeat it. Then he followed her instructions, firing a powerful laser shot at the monster's stomach until it collapsed and fell to the seabed. Feeling concerned for Ruri's safety, Kagami cautioned her against such reckless actions in the future. But Ruri, believing in Alma's power, disregarded his warning. The next day, Ruri traveled abroad to participate in an auction for a rare gemstone, which she won after a fierce bidding war. As they flew back to Japan, she informed Kagami that the gemstone would help Alma gain even greater strength. That night, Kagami was escorting Sacred 7 member Yuji Kenmi to the Iba family's residence when they were ambushed by a dark stone monster. Kagami attempted to use his engagement suit to defeat the monster, but it had a special power that caused him to freeze and become immobile. Suddenly, Kenmi stepped in and managed to defeat the monster with ease. Just as Alma arrived on the scene, he transformed into a dark monster, but this time the power was too overwhelming, and he fainted from the pain. When he awoke, he found himself in a room with Ruri, who apologized for not supporting him during his transformation. Soon after, Kagami arrived and asked Ruri to meet with Kenmi in another room. His purpose for visiting her was to ask for her help capturing 2 other Sacred 7 members, Kajima Knight and Lao Fei-Zui. Kenmi revealed that the 2 teenagers were dark stone users who had escaped from his research lab. He explained that he had vaccinated them so they wouldn't be able to use all the powers of darkness perfectly. He also explained that the vaccine could help them control their powers, and he believed that Knight would return to the lab to steal additional vaccines. It turned out that the dark stone monster that had attacked Kagami and Kenmi earlier was actually Knight, and he was currently hiding somewhere with Fei-Zui. When Knight returned to a state of serious injury and pain, Fei-Zui quickly injected a vaccine into him so that he turned back into an ordinary human. Seeing his condition getting weaker, Fei-Zui intended to help Knight fight Kenmi, but he forbade that because he felt another very strong dark power. After Kenmi's departure, Ruri filled Alma in on the situation with Knight and Fei-Zui. At that time, Alma was surprised to learn that there were others with the power of the Dark Stone, but Ruri assured him that most users of the Dark Stone were monitored by a special organization to prevent them from using their powers for criminal activities. Their priority now was to locate Knight and Fei-Zui and capture them before they could cause harm to others. That night, Ruri and the others returned to Kenmi's research laboratory headquarters. There he informed them that Knight's power had grown even stronger, and that he would be difficult to control when he transformed into a monster. He also revealed that Knight was responsible for creating the Medusa monster and bombing the US military plane. The following night, Knight appeared and attacked Kagami. Then Alma raced after Knight into the laboratory after gaining the power of Ruri's Stone of Light. Together, they successfully trapped Knight in a room filled with flames, but he managed to escape using his portal power and made his way to Kenmi's location. However, Alma held off his attack and tried to convince him to stop fighting, but Knight refused, and Alma was forced to battle with him. Eventually, Knight fled the scene. A few days later, Ruri was excitedly preparing for the school festival, her first celebration as the school's new owner. At the same time, Kagami and Alma received information from Onigawara that there was a dark stone power nearby the school, but they decided to keep it from Ruri so as not to disrupt the festival preparations. The night after, Kagami stumbled upon a dark stone monster that resembled a worm. Without hesitation, he destroyed the creature's body. But the monster had split into 2, and one of them managed to escape Kagami's attack range. Soon after, Alma found the remaining monster and prepared to strike it with a powerful punch. However, his Sacred 7 power suddenly vanished as the Stone of Light he used to transform was a spare. Kagami arrived just in time to help him defeat the monster, ultimately destroying it with one powerful punch. The explosion from the monster's body had created fireworks in the sky, which caught Ruri's attention. She scolded Alma for not informing her of the incident, but Kagami explained that they had kept it a secret to avoid interfering with the preparations for the school festival, which was to be held the next day. Thanks to Ruri's hard work, the school festival was a success filled with energy and excitement. At the end of the week, the geology club went camping in the mountains and enjoyed their time together. When they reached the top of the mountain, they heard rumors that it was actually a pyramid and that secrets were hidden within. While the other members of the geology club were enjoying themselves in the middle of the sea, Alma had a strange premonition about the nearby mountain. On the other hand, Wakana was more interested in finding rare stones around the beach. She believed that she could find even more beautiful stones in the mountains, so she set out alone to explore the foot of the mountain and search for stones to study. As Alma was lifting Onigawara to track the power of the dark stone around the camp, a member of the geology club called him and led him to a cave. When Alma and Kagami stood in front of the cave entrance, they could feel the strong aura of the dark stone. They advised Wakana and the other club members not to enter the cave, as Kagami deemed it too dangerous. He suggested that they have lunch first before exploring the cave. While the others were having lunch, Kagami and Iba's research team prepared a robot suit called the Corundum Laser Cannon to investigate what was inside the cave with Onigawara. After walking for a considerable distance, Kagami was suddenly attacked by a small group of dark stone monsters, but he managed to defeat them. Onigawara then detected a parent monster from the dark stone lair in the mountain, so the two continued their journey toward the center of the cave. Suddenly, a great shock occurred in the cave, and Ruri and Alma rushed to the cave to pick up Kagami. Unfortunately, the ground around the cave collapsed, and they were dragged into a dark tunnel under the cave. As Alma failed to find Ruri in the tunnel, he ran to the end of the tunnel and jumped into a waterfall. On the other hand, Onigawara informed Kagami that he could feel Ruri's presence nearby, and as Kagami walked down an alley, he found Ruri lying unconscious. After she awoke, she was worried about Alma, who could not use his powers without the help of her light stone. Kagami tried to reassure her that they would soon find Alma around the cave. Unfortunately, the tunnel, which was their only way out, suddenly closed, and a dark monster appeared above them. At the same time, Alma approached the passageway and began to sense Ruri's presence in the area, but he had to fend off another attack from the dark stone monster. She also heard his screams and threw Onigawara toward him, allowing them to connect. With Ruri channeling her power of the light stone to Alma through Onigawara, he transformed into a sacred seven and immediately attacked the mother monster lurking above the cave. With the mother monster defeated, the explosion from its body created a massive blast that reached the top of the mountain. On the way back to town, Kagami scolded Alma for putting Ruri in danger and decided to give him rigorous training as punishment. The next day, as Alma was relaxing on the school roof, Ruri approached him and invited him to have lunch with the provisions she had prepared. But he felt uncomfortable with the sudden closeness, and he refused and said he wasn't hungry. Understanding, she left him alone and attended a meeting with Kagami. As they were on the way, a girl suddenly crossed in front of their car, causing Kagami to hit the brakes and get out of the car to check on her condition. Unfortunately, it was a trap set by Knight and Phase Zay to distract Kagami and kidnap Ruri. Then Kagami immediately informed Kenmi of Ruri's kidnapping and asked him for help finding her whereabouts. However, Kenmi suspected Knight and Phase Zay as the perpetrators and, accompanied by another Sacred Seven member named Arakune, set out to find Ruri. Meanwhile, Kagami went to Alma to inform him about Ruri's kidnapping and handed him Onigawara, which had been split in two. Initially, Alma intended to help him save Ruri, but Kagami forbade him, knowing that the kidnapping was related to the power of the Dark Stone and Alma would only complicate the situation. In his room, Alma tried to put Onigawara back together with glue, and surprisingly it worked, returning Onigawara to its original form. With this information, Alma decided to help save Ruri with Kenmi and Kagami. Kenmi also informed them that Arakune was currently fighting Knight on the hill, and he would try to find out where Ruri was being held captive. The battle between Arakune and Knight was intense, but ultimately she could not defeat him. In a surprise move, he attacked from above and severed Arakune's hand. Wounded and defeated, she approached Kenmi and the others to inform them of her failure but also revealed that she had secretly planted a tracking device on Knight's body. Kenmi speculated that the reason for Knight's kidnapping of Ruri was to extract her powers and create a serum to control the power of the Dark Stone. He promised Kagami that he would track Knight's whereabouts and send the coordinates as soon as possible before taking off in his helicopter. As Kagami prepared to follow Kenmi, Alma begged to be allowed to help, but he refused, knowing that Alma's powers would be extremely unstable without Ruri's power of the Light Stone to balance them. Determined to save Ruri, Alma refused to sit idly by and set off into the forest to locate Knight's headquarters. Knowing that he couldn't stop him, Kagami ultimately decided to let him go and handed him a briefcase, instructing him to give it to Ruri if he found her. At Knight's hideout, Phase Zay extracted a sample of Ruri's blood to create a serum. Upon waking up and realizing she was being held captive, Ruri begged to be let go and claimed she needed to use the restroom. Seizing the opportunity, she pushed Phase Zay away and asked if Knight had used her blood. However, Phase Zay denied this, claiming that Knight had saved her from Kenmi, who killed her older brother in one of his experiments. Meanwhile, Alma traveled down an underground passage in the forest and stumbled upon a Knight, who took him to the hideout. Upon arriving and finding Ruri safe, his attention was drawn to Phase Zay lying weakly nearby. There they questioned Knight about Phase Zay's condition and the reason for their escape from Kenmi's laboratory. Knight revealed that Kenmi had conducted inhumane experiments on users of the Dark Stone, but before they could delve deeper into the conversation, a massive explosion stoned the hideout, destroying all the barriers. Seeing that, Alma quickly protected Ruri and Phase Zay with his body while Knight prepared to fight the dark monster that had caused the explosion. When Phase Zay was about to administer the serum to Knight, the monster turned its attention to him and moved to attack. In a shocking revelation, Phase Zay recognized the monster as his deceased older brother. Suddenly, Knight quickly intervened and whisked him away to a safer location. Unfortunately, the dark monster regained footing and turned its attack toward Kenmi. Still pinned under a boulder, Alma struggled to free himself, but Ruri offered him her power of the Light Stone, allowing him to transform into the Sacred Seven and easily lift the boulder. Having gained control of the monster, Kenmi informed them that it had lost its human soul. Shortly after, Kenmi explained that the Darkness Beast was a former Darkness Stone user who had escaped from his laboratory. However, Alma asked whether he had been conducting illegal experiments on Dark Stone users. At that time, Kenmi admitted that his laboratory researched to harness the power of the Sacred Seven, but denied any wrongdoing or harm towards any individual. He also revealed that Knight had hurt many people in his escape from the lab and warned Alma that believing Knight's events would lead him down a dangerous path. As Kenmi left in his helicopter, Alma and Ruri were unsure who to believe. However, unbeknownst to them, Kenmi had lied and actually orchestrated the release of Fei Zi's older brother, Zero, to capture Knight. At that time, Fei Zi was devastated upon learning that his older brother was still alive and being used by Kenmi to kill him. Then Ruri instructed Kagami to investigate Kenmi's background and research, but he could only find Kenmi's official identity information and no data or files regarding his research. In the afternoon, Ruri visited Alma's house to ask him to sign a cooperation agreement stating that he would never leave her. This action, however, led Alma to misunderstand and believe that Ruri still didn't trust him, causing a dispute between them. Luckily, Onigawara had the plan to reconcile their relationship. Soon after, Onigawara split his own body in two and revealed that the only thing that could reunite him was a loyalty stone, which Alma and Ruri could only obtain by working together. Then they set off to Kamakura City and found a stone with the same characteristics Onigawara had described. He instructed them to always hold hands for the stone to function properly, and though they were initially uncomfortable with the idea, they complied on the journey back home. Before returning to Alma's house, he invited Ruri to have ramen together at a tavern, clearing up the misunderstandings between them. He explained that he was fighting not out of necessity, but because he wanted to protect Ruri and her sister. This improved their relationship, and they began spending time visiting various places in Kamakura City. There Alma revealed that he had lived in the city several years ago, but after a traumatic incident, he and his mother decided to move away. As Alma and Ruri watched the sunset together, she realized that the loyalty stone they had obtained was not emitting any light, even though they were holding hands. The following day, when they returned to Alma's house, they were surprised to find Onigawara's body reunited and intact. He admitted that he had lied to them to mend their relationship. Meanwhile, Kenmi had secretly become aware of the investigation being conducted by Ibis Company. The next day, her team detected a signal of a dark stone in the Jogashima region and the Miura Sea, moving towards the city at 50 kilometers per hour. Soon after, Ruri and the others quickly set off toward the location to stop the stone monster of darkness. At that time, Alma and Ibis troops headed to Jogashima, while Ruri and Kagami remained on guard at the city's border to keep other monsters at bay. Upon arriving in Jogashima, Alma encountered a large dark stone monster and immediately engaged in battle. At first, the monster did not show any signs of aggression, but it began to relentlessly chase him and delivered a powerful punch that sent him flying. At the same time, Kagami engaged in a battle against dark stone monsters at the city's border, using his engagement suit. As the monster approached him, he quickly fired several bullets at it. However, the monster countered by charging toward him and cutting off one of the arms of his engagement suit. Suddenly, the dark stone monster proceeded to suck on the severed hand, causing its body to grow larger with each object it consumed. With Kagami's weapon suit damaged, Ibis troops attempted to subdue the monster by releasing a series of laser shots. Sadly, the laser shots had no effect on the monster and only served to enrage it further. With limited strength, Kagami tried to fend off the monster using a sword-arm weapon. But the attack was unsuccessful, and he was forced to retreat under the monster's immense pressure. It turned out that Alma faced a similar struggle, finding it difficult to defeat the dark monsters in Jogashima. The monster even clamped his neck with its toes, prompting Ibis troops in a helicopter to shoot at the monster's body from behind to allow Alma to escape. Fortunately, he managed to break free, but the troops had to make an emergency landing due to engine damage inflicted by the monster. As the dark stone monster raced towards the city, Alma desperately tried to hold back its legs to no avail. On the other hand, Kagami faced a giant monster that had grown stronger after devouring various objects. He attempted to fire a laser shot, but the monster absorbed it and fired it back at Kagami. Seeing the dire situation, Ruri attempted to shoot the monster's core from behind, but her shot missed, and the monster turned to attack her. Then Kagami quickly pulled her to safety before the monster could reach her. Meanwhile, Alma struggled to defend himself against the relentless attacks from the monsters that repeatedly stomped and stabbed him into the ground. Just as he was about to be cornered, his eyes suddenly lit up, and he miraculously gained a new power, allowing him to escape the monster's attack. Then he counterattacked by repeatedly slamming the monster to the ground until he finally destroyed it by throwing it into the air and shooting it with a laser. With the first monster defeated, Alma rushed to the city's border region to assist Ruri and Kagami in defeating the remaining dark stone monsters. As the giant monster was about to step on her, Alma arrived just in time and delivered a powerful punch that sent the monster flying into the sea. A light emerged from the monster's body and shot off in another direction at lightning speed. Alma intended to chase after it, but Ruri tried to stop him. Then he reassured her that he still had enough strength to defeat it. He chased after the light at high speed and unleashed a powerful attack that shattered it. The shards of light flew toward Ruri's house and hit the crystal prison that held Aoi, causing it to crack. The next day, as Alma sat in school, Ruri approached him with a desperate plea. She invited him to her home, where he was shocked to see Aoi lying in a coma, freed from the crystal cage. Ruri tearfully asked if Alma knew any information that could save Aoi and make her wake up, but he admitted that she had no knowledge of the situation. To comfort her, Alma invited her to sit on a bench and made her a cup of tea. He couldn't help but feel guilty as he realized that without his knowledge, he had been the one to free Aoi from the crystal cage. Soon after, Alma turned to Kagami for answers about the incident 5 years ago. Kagami revealed that Aoi and Ruri were planning to spend the holiday at a villa with their parents on Christmas Eve. The day before they left, they had prepared a special gift for their parents. But while Aoi was gathering additional materials for the gift in the living room, she overheard a conversation between her parents and the leader of the Kenmi Group company. Her father had revealed that the Iba family company would be terminating their cooperation contract with the Kenmi Group company because their research was illegal and inhumane. The following day, as Ruri and Aoi were preparing to leave for the villa, she accidentally dropped the gift Ruri had made. Knowing that she was angry and disappointed with Aoi, so she locked herself in her room. Then Aoi and her parents had to go to the villa without her. Shortly after, Ruri's father asked Kagami to take care of her and bring her to the villa when she felt better. After Ruri repaired her broken gift, her mood improved, and he rushed her to the villa. On the way, she felt guilty for the previous incident and intended to apologize to Aoi upon arrival. Meanwhile, Aoi and her parents arrived at the villa, only to be met with a devastating attack by a dark stone monster. The creature killed her father and servants with a fiery attack before turning its attention to her mother, brutally stabbing her until she died. Aoi was the only one left alive. As the monster prepared to strike the final blow, Aoi's light stone power activated and created a barrier of crystal stone that the monster could not penetrate. It retreated, failing to carry out its master Kenmi's orders to kill the entire Iba family. But before the monster could escape, Kagami's father, who had miraculously survived, confronted the monster and detonated an automatic explosive device, taking both himself and the monster with him in the blast. Not long after, Kagami and Ruri arrived at the villa to find a scene of utter devastation, with everyone, including Ruri's parents, dead. At that moment, Ruri was horrified to find Aoi's unconscious body trapped in a crystal stone cage. It was the worst day of her life, and she couldn't help but blame herself for what had happened to Aoi. Then Ruri explained to Alma that she believed the crystal stone that had trapped Aoi all this time was a protection created by the power of Aoi's activated Sacred Seven. She was determined to destroy all the dark stones in the world to find a way to heal Aoi. Moved by her sincere intentions, Alma promised to stand by her side and help her make her wish a reality. A few days passed, and the television news began airing false reports about Iba Corporation's alleged tax evasion over the years. Ruri suspected that someone was trying to sabotage her company, but she couldn't figure out who was behind it. Soon after, a group of police officers arrived at her house with arrest warrants for Ruri on charges of corruption. She was shocked, knowing that she had done nothing wrong, but the false accusations put her reputation and her company's reputation at risk. Ruri knew she had to act fast to clear her name and save her business before it was too late. As the news of Ruri's arrest spread, Kagami secretly went to school to pick up Alma and take him to a safe place. But as they were leaving, they were ambushed by several mysterious vehicles. Just in the nick of time, Iba's secret maids arrived and engaged in a fierce battle with the thugs, allowing Kagami and Alma to escape safely. The maids informed them that they would help them free Ruri from police custody. Feize also arrived, bearing grave news. He informed them that Knight was on his way to Kenmi's lab with the intention of killing him. He begged for their help in saving Knight, and in return, he promised to help them rescue Ruri from the police station. At that moment, they knew that time was of the essence, and they had to act fast if they were to save their loved ones and clear their names. Unbeknownst to them, Ruri was being held hostage by Kenny's troops, locked up in an operating room at his research laboratory. It turns out that Kenny was the one who had spread false news about Iba's corporate corruption to the media and sent the police to arrest her. It turned out that Kenny had been planning all of this for a long time. His ultimate goal was to capture Ruri and take her heart to gain even greater power. As she panicked and became frightened by the situation, her Sacred 7 power exploded, sending Kenny flying into the wall. On the way to Kenny's lab, Fei-Zui revealed to Kagami and the others the full extent of Kenny's nefarious crimes. He also divulged that Kenny's ultimate goal was to destroy Iba Corporation and become the sole company in control of the Sacred 7's power. With this newfound knowledge, they united in their fight against Kenny's troops. They were determined to put a stop to Kenny's nefarious plans and save Ruri and Knight from his clutches. They knew that it would be a tough battle, but with their determination and united strength, they were confident that they could overcome any obstacle. As they were making their move, Knight had already arrived at Kenny's research lab and launched a surprise attack on the guards stationed at the entrance. Simultaneously, Kagami and the others arrived and engaged the troops from various points, allowing Alma and Fei-Zui to infiltrate the lab unnoticed. However, their efforts were met with a shocking surprise. Zero, who had been thought to be defeated, had been resurrected by Kenny and was now standing in their way. They were taken aback, unsure of how to proceed, but they knew that they had to push forward and stop Kenny at all costs. Then Alma asked Fei-Zui to hide in a safe place, and took on Zero alone. Unfortunately, his powerful attack caused the room's walls to crumble, narrowly missing Alma. As he emerged from the rubble, Alma found a necklace belonging to his mother and couldn't help but wonder how it ended up at Kenny's headquarters. During the chaos, Knight arrived and defeated Zero, taking Fei-Zui to a safer place. At that time, Fei-Zui begged Knight not to hurt his brother, but Knight explained that Zero had lost his human soul, leaving him no choice but to kill him. But Fei-Zui pulled out a serum from his bag, saying that he would try to save Zero with it. Meanwhile, Alma left Knight and set out to find the room where Ruri was being held. Upon finding Ruri, Alma was horrified to see her trapped in a crystal, just like Aoi had been before. He was aware that Kenny's ultimate goal was to kill Ruri and awaken the power of the Sacred 7 within her, to protect her from harm. He frantically tried to destroy the crystal that encased Ruri's body, but to no avail, as the crystal only grew stronger. It was clear that they were going to have to come up with a different plan to free Ruri. Luckily, Alma could destroy the crystal using his mother's necklace, freeing Ruri from her confinement. Kenny then appeared and admitted to sending the dark stone monsters to the city center. He also confessed that he realized the purest Sacred 7 power was within Alma and attempted to awaken it. Meanwhile, Knight continued to fight against Zero and tried to revive him as Fei-Zui had requested. After successfully restraining Zero, Fei-Zui rushed to inject him with the serum. However, his body caught fire, and he turned into an uncontrollable dark stone monster. As Zero broke through a wall and entered a room, he stumbled upon Kenny, who immediately took control of his core, leaving him powerless. At that time, Fei-Zui could only watch in tears as her brother fell apart. After stealing Zero's core, Kenny attached it to his body, increasing his strength and gaining new powers. His ultimate goal was to seize Alma and Ruri's cores and become an invincible god, the most powerful Sacred 7 on Earth. Upon hearing this, Knight became furious and tried to attack Kenny with all his remaining strength. However, Kenny easily deflected his attacks and knocked him away with one strike. On the other hand, Alma asked Ruri to transfer her power to him so that Kenny couldn't steal it from her body. Still determined to defeat Kenny, Knight was distracted by Kenny's capture of Fei-Zui. Then he took advantage of Knight's distraction and delivered a powerful punch. At that time, Kenny planned to finish off Fei-Zui by throwing him from the sky, but Alma managed to save him in time. Then Kenny instead turned his attention to Knight, and seizing his core by force, threw his body from the sky. Seeing Knight lying helplessly due to Kenny's greed, Fei-Zui's anger boiled over, and his Sacred 7 power miraculously revived. As they fought, Kenny's strength proved formidable and difficult for Alma to overcome. As Alma began to be overwhelmed, Fei-Zui fired crystal bullets at Kenny's body. Shortly after, he launched a barrage of attacks. Unfortunately, each attack only made Kenny's body stronger, as it turns out his Sacred 7 power was a protective power, similar to Ruri's and Aoi's. But Alma didn't give up. He tried other ways to destroy the barrier on Kenny's body. After accelerating his speed by running around the top of the mountain, he launched a powerful impact attack on Kenny, destroying the barrier. However, before Kenny fell from the height, he implanted his core into Fei Zi's body, which was nearby. Kenny's death may have ended the immediate chaos, but a greater disaster still threatened humanity if Alma failed to stop Fei Zi. Suddenly, Fei Zi transformed into a dark stone monster, losing control and burning everything around him. Aoi, who had finally awoken from her coma, approached Onigawara with a request for his assistance. Then Kagami walked into the room where Aoi was being treated, visibly surprised to find her awake. She promised to explain everything later and asked him to join her on a journey to the battlefield. As they arrived at the war zone, Aoi approached Knight, who had also regained consciousness. She gave him the strength he needed to save Alma and Fei Zi. Thanks to their cooperation, they could successfully rescue Fei Zi from the grip of the Darkstone's power. The crystal that had enveloped his body shattered into light, signifying their victory. The long and grueling battle had finally come to an end. Knight, victorious, took Fei Zi home to a safe haven. Alma, in the meantime, reunited with Ruri, who had already joined Aoi. A few days after Kenny's passing, Ruri and Kagami worked tirelessly to restore the reputation of Ibis Company. Their efforts paid off as all of her employees, who had been unjustly arrested by the police, were released. The anime ends with Alma and the members of the Geology Club setting sail on a cruise ship owned by Ibis Company. They embark on an adventure to continue their search for rare and valuable stones around the world. The moral that can be learned from this anime is that the greatest strength lies within us when we have a burning desire to protect and bring happiness to the people we hold dear. It teaches us that through the courage and determination to fight for the ones we love, we can overcome any obstacle and emerge victorious.